Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Uncle Matt. I'm joined by Nephew P for our usual Friday live stream tonight. A little early this week because I got to take Jess out for a birthday dinner later tonight. So, everybody make sure and shout out Jess in the chat. Tell her happy birthday. Big day for her. We're going to, I think, Bob's Steakhouse or something like that. Sounds made up, but that's where we're going apparently. So, it should be fun. Nephew P's leaving at any minute. Could be picked up at any second. Hopefully picked up very soon because he's just been getting on my nerves all day long. We got a lot to chat about today. We've got the Nashville SC FC Dallas match coming up tomorrow. We've got the FA Cup final, Manchester United versus Manchester City, coming up tomorrow. A lot of footy this weekend. I also want to talk about a lot of prestige TV wrapped up this week. We had the finales of Barry, Succession, and Ted Lasso all in one week. So a lot to talk about this week. Let's jump right into it. We'll start with Nashville SC versus FC Dallas tomorrow night. The boys in gold travel down to the Lone Star State. What are you doing? You feel like you're creeping me out the way you're standing behind me like this. I'm going to just shift this because I feel like you're creeping me out. I'm being creepy back there. The boys in gold travel to the Lone Star State to take on FC Dallas. A lot has come up this week with the boys in gold. Hani Mukhtar today was announced as the player of the month for May. Why are you being such a weirdo? Why are you being so weird? Well deserved. He's been on fire the last month. Nashville SC's been on fire the last month. Good to see him getting his flowers after he should be the back-to-back MVP, but got denied 2 years ago. Got it last year, so good to see him getting it this year. Big match this weekend. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the lineup. You know, Leal has come back in. Is he fit enough to start? Does Gary stick with like the players that have been playing? You know, until they fall out of form. Zimmerman came off the bench last week, so he seems like he could be poised for return, but he's also got the departure for the U.S. CONCACAF Nations League matches coming up, so does Gary, protect him a little bit before that? Interesting to see.
What? I'm not doing anything.
But he seems to be fit, seems ready to go. Should be a good match. FC Dallas, solid team. They've got really good attackers. They got, obviously, Jesus Ferreira. Do you like the pronunciation there? They got Paul Areola. They got Sebastian Leggett. They got solid players. I feel like FC Dallas is one of the teams like Nashville SC, for whatever reason, has played like 100 times between like the weird COVID season, multiple switches back and forth between the Eastern and Western Conference. I feel like we've played FC Dallas more than anybody else. So it would expect it to be a decent back and forth matchup. It's a road game for Nashville SC, so we're not going to see probably as much of the wide open attack as what we've been seeing lately from Nashville SC, but I mean, we've still been going for it on the road a little bit. Disappointed to not have gotten full 3 points at DC. Kind of borderline stole a match from Charlotte on the road a couple weeks ago. So we've been keeping it tight on the road. We haven't just been like going out there and throwing it out there. I think the key is just to not give up an early goal. Like you go back to the NYCFC match with I think that was the last match we actually lost. And we gave up 2 early goals and it just kind of completely debilitated us and threw off all the rhythm in that match. So keep it tight, keep it close. Bring Shuffleberg off the bench late. Let him just run at tired defenders. That's the recipe Gary's come up with lately, and it's been very effective. It's worked very well. One thing that I would say would benefit Nashville SC in this matchup is we had the week off. We didn't have to play any kind of midweek matches, and Dallas did. They lost midweek to Kansas City, who is not very good, but same time, schedule congestion. There's no bad losses in MLS. Like there's no team that's like that bad that if you lose to them, you're like, oh, this is embarrassing. This is terrible. But fatigue, squad rotation. Does Dallas rotate a little bit coming off the match at midweek? Give us a few extra opportunities. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think the 2 things that have me the most encouraged about this season in general, like as crazy as Joe Willis has been back to like his best form since he's been at Nashville SC. Like our first 2 seasons, we were like, how did we steal this goalkeeper? Like, why wasn't this guy like one of the best goalkeepers in the league? Last season, bit of a dip. This season, he's been insane. Columbus, late in the game last week, he made some insane saves that kept us in it and gave us the chance to like get that late like steal of a goal for Hani Mukhtar that was just brutal. Hani Mukhtar's been brilliant. Like, how do you not just like love Hani Mukhtar at this point? But Joe Willis has been brilliant, but maybe the most unheralded key player this season, maybe the most non-Henny Mukhtar player of the season for Nashville SC so far, for me might be Jack Meyer. And I probably never once pronounced his name correctly in all the times I've tried to say his name, but I mean, we traded away Dave Romney this offseason with the idea that Jack was ready to step in. He was our first ever MLS Super Draft pick. Trade away Dave Romney. That was a bit of like an eyebrow raiser. Like, oh my God, Dave Romney, who played almost every single minute, like for like the first 3 years for Nashville SC, traded away Jack Meyer. We're really ready to roll with Jack Meyer, and he has just been absolutely brilliant this season. Just like unbreakable. Like playing virtually every minute. He's the guy he stays in for the cup matches. He's played like I think Nashville SC has like the most players that have played every minute of the MLS league season, and it's like Lovitz, Meyer, Shaq Moore, and then Joe Willis. It's crazy that we have, but that's the solidity of our back line there. But Jack Meier's just been brilliant. Look up Nashville SC stats on Twitter. That's a Twitter account that tweets out like random Nashville SC stats. They laid it out how good Jack Meier's been this season, and you know I love Dave Romney, but they also pointed out how much better Meier's been than Romney this season, and what a big move that was to make that decision to go with that. So shout out Jack Meyer. Obviously Mukhtar's player of the season, but you got to give Jack Meyer a shout in second place there. So it's been great. Like I said, I think we'll play well enough to be in this match. I'm still not convinced of Nashville SC on the road. I'm still not sold on them as being a team that will, be able to go on the road and dominate. Just not only a Nashville SC thing, but that's an MLS thing. Like MLS is notorious for being like the hardest league it is to win on the road in. So I would go ahead and say I feel like there's goals in this game with their attack, with our attack. It's crazy to say it because earlier this season I was saying the best bet in MLS was betting the under in Nashville SC matches, but maybe because I'm so stupid, I was wrong about that. I'll probably be wrong about this, but if I was going to make a prediction for the match tomorrow, I'd say 2-2 all. 2-all draw for Nashville SC and FC Dallas. Should be a fun match, though. It's going to be, a lot of attack. Both teams have good attacking players that can do a lot. What do you think? What's your prediction for the Nashville SC match tomorrow?
Like who's gonna win?
Yeah, we're playing FC Dallas tomorrow. You just heard all my analysis. What do you think?
Nashville.
Nashville. There you go. So I predicted a 2-2 draw. Nephew P has a Nashville SC win. Scoreline. What do you think the score's going to be?
Probably like 3-2.
3-2. So I have a 2-2 draw. He's got a 3-2 win. Judge which one of us. He's smarter than me. I would definitely say that. But should be fun. We'll definitely be watching that match tomorrow. But the other big soccer match tomorrow, FA Cup final, the Derby. First time ever a Manchester Derby in maybe any final. Manchester United, Manchester City.
Manchester's winning.
Well, yeah, Manchester's winning, definitely, because it's Manchester City versus Manchester United. He's got United. I'm not so sold just because, City has been... Obviously, we know how good City is. Uh-oh, your mother's here.
See ya.
Peace out to Nephew P. City's been a house on fire. It feels like the last 2 months they really fully unlocked how to best use Erling Haaland. Like early in the season, that was maybe like a little bit of like a... Let's let them get that out of their system. I need some like blackout curtains. These are like blinding me over here. But unfortunately, it seems like the last like 2 months of the season, like Pep, I have my reservations about it, how good of a manager he actually is, but he figured out how to make all these superstar players all work together and like really roll through the second half of the Premier League season. Last time these two teams played, United won 2-1, but feels like it's a completely different City team the way they've been playing lately from how they were in that match. And United seems to have run out of steam a little bit. Like, seemed like they had to like just kind of force themselves over the finish line the last couple of weeks to hold on to the top 4 spot. Finished third though, so that's nothing to turn your nose up on. But United, shock of all shocks, Anthony Martial's out injured. Anthony, horror tackle versus Chelsea, takes him out of the match. Obviously, Licha Martinez still out. So that's what scares me the most about this match is that you're basically asking Victor Lindelof to deal with Erling Haaland. That is a terrible matchup for United. Because, I like Lindelof. I like him as a squad player. I think he'd be a solid, like, third choice center back, fourth choice center back, maybe. But, his lack of physicality is a problem, especially when you've got, like, just a freak athlete like Erling Haaland, who's 7'8", pure muscle, can run like a 4.040. Just feels like just a terrible mismatch. Like, I don't know. Ten Hag has pulled out a few tricks throughout the season where he's figured out some ideas. He's come up with some strategic tactics to like counter some stuff, but it is just very hard to see us winning this one. Rashford, brilliant season from him, but he's been hurt the last couple of weeks and feels like he's been a little bit ragged. It feels like United were just like limping over the finish line of the season, and City has been like on fire the last like month and a half. It holds a lot of meaning in this match, more than like most cup finals would, just because it's the derby, whatever you want to call it, but also the fact that City have a chance to become the second team in England's history to win the treble. They're already won the Premier League. FA Cup would give them the second trophy, and they're in the Champions League final against a very, I think most people would pick them to beat Inter in that match, So United have a chance to stop them from winning the treble and preserving the 99 squad as being the only team in English history to win a treble, but I have a hard time seeing it. Like, I think Ten Hag is going to set the team up to where they'll be competitive. They'll be in the match, but it's just, how can you stop Haaland at this point? Like, it seems like City's figured everything out. We're riddled with injuries, and it seems like somehow they never have injuries. Like, when was I don't follow City as closely as I follow United, obviously, but I feel like they have just like 30 players. None of them are ever injured. He can just pick any players he wants all the time. I'm gonna predict. If I was gonna predict a scoreline, I'd say 3-1 City. It's hard to see United find a way to win this one. I think Ten Hag will find a way to keep it competitive, but I think it's a 3-1 win for City. Sadly, fingers crossed. Romelu Lukaku, he's dating Megan Thee Stallion now. Get that extra energy from her. Run through City. He's a former United player. Get that energy. I think we're more got to throw our support behind Inter to stop the treble than anybody else. But it'll be fun. I'll be at the Lost Patty here in Nashville tomorrow for the watch party. Should be a blast. I always love going there. I always love going to watch parties there. Might just stay the whole day there because I'll have a Nashville SC watch party tomorrow night too. But should be fun. Quick Titans update. Not necessarily Titans related, but former Titan. Brett Kern, longtime punter for the Titans, legend, announced his retirement today. He announced it as a Titan after not playing for the team last year, playing briefly for the Eagles in their stretch run in the championship. He retired today. Great player. It's crazy. We've had like two like incredible punters in like the entire history of the Titans, like with not really a gap in between. We went straight from Craig Hendrick to Brett Kern, and then we got this rookie Stonehouse last year who he doesn't quite have like the pinpoint accuracy that those two guys had, but he's got like the craziest punter leg we've seen. Like, he's just monster punter. Like, so the one thing the Titans have done right, they've never been able to get a wide receiver outside of A.J. Brown. Immediately traded him away, but we've always had punters. So shout out Brett Kern, great career, great Titan. There's some talk, should he be put in a Ring of Honor? And I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, like, that might be like mean to say, but I mean, it's like you gotta be like an exceptional level kicker or punter to go in the Ring of Honor. Like, I guess the Titans don't have maybe you're getting a little too ahead of themselves with the Ring of Honor. Like, I'm thinking like Adam Vinatieri, like, is like a special teams player that deserves to be in a team's Ring of Honor because he won multiple Super Bowls winning kicks. Punters, you don't really get that. Like, you don't really have those opportunities, like have those big moments. So maybe just out of the shout out, just like, I don't know. I wouldn't put him in the Ring of Honor. Like, not that he's not an all-time great Titan, but it's like, you gotta have some standards for what the Ring of Honor is at this point in time. Like, are we gonna put Taylor Lewan in the Ring of Honor? Someone struck my straw. I mean, Lawan had more Pro Bowls than Kern, didn't he? Maybe, I don't know. But I might be completely off of that. I wouldn't put him in the Ring of Honor. I think like at a certain point in time we needed to build up the Ring of Honor, but at a certain point in time we also need to like just pump the brakes and say like, hey, let's make sure we're actually putting like really high level players into the Ring of Honor. But Kern was great, all time legend. It was like to have a player like that in that position that you know is reliable, that you know you can count on, is huge. So now I feel like I'm talking myself into putting him in the Ring of Honor, but I don't know. Shout out Brett Kern. Thank you for your service to the Titans. Enjoy your retirement. I'm glad. You know, I was really I was pulling for the Eagles last year in the Super Bowl because I wanted to see Brett Kern specifically get a ring. So I was disappointed that they weren't able to pull it off. So, but great Titan. Ring of Honor. I don't know. All right. So here we go. We're wrapping up the show today. We're going to talk about television shows that just wrapped up their series this last week. It's crazy. Three of like the most like talked about like in the monoculture shows. All three had their series finale within a week of each other. Barry, Succession, Ted Lasso. So if you're not caught up on any of these, if you didn't watch the finales yet, or if you're saving the whole shows to binge them later, normally I wouldn't tell you to tune out of my show, tune out of the stream, but tune out now because I can't talk about these without spoiling stuff. So spoiler alerts from here. All right, sorry about that. I don't know what just happened, but apparently the entire internet went out of the house just now. Lost the stream, lost everything. Oh God, we're back now though. I think. I hope we're back. So, like I said, spoiler alerts from here on out. We're talking Barry. We're talking Succession. We're talking Ted Lasso. Three shows, three great shows, three shows that I've enjoyed from day one. Loved every minute of them for the most part. Not every minute. Loved from the start. All ended their runs this past week. So let's start with probably the most notable one, the one most people probably like tuned in for, most people watched, Succession. I have thoughts about this season of Succession. I thought it was good. I mean, like I think Succession gets elevated a little bit more because the acting is so good than the actual quality of the show. Like, obviously, like all the performers in the show are incredible. Like everybody's just like nails it with their delivery, with their performances. But sometimes I think like the story structure of the show wasn't actually as good as we thought it was, and like incredible acting almost kind of covered that up. Like maybe I'm crazy in that regard, but like I really felt that this last season where like there was like so many episodes that just like it was a weird season. Like it didn't feel like a final season. Like I have a conspiracy theory. I'll just jump right to this. That this was not meant to be the final season of Succession, but everybody just got sick of working with Jeremy Strong, the actor who plays Kendall Roy, because there's been multiple interviews that have come out of people talking about, you know, how difficult he is to work with because he's a strict, hardcore method actor. Which, if you don't know what method acting is, basically means when he's in the role, when he's performing, he's acting like even outside of takes, between takes, he's always Kendall Roy. He's never not Kendall Roy. He's always Kendall Roy. Anytime, any moment, he's Kendall Roy. So if Kendall Roy's in a weird funk, in a weird depression, or if he's angry, if he's mad at everybody else, Jeremy Strong continues to just portray that throughout, you know, the time they're on set together. There's like, you can look it up. There's crazy stories about the way he's behaved on set, you know, keeping the role going, the performance going. He is a protege slash, you know, Daniel Day-Lewis, who's like probably the most famous method actor, was his kind of mentor. But it seems like he's taken it to another level. Like Brian Cox, who plays the matriarch of the family, Logan Roy, has some very famous quotes about like how much of a pain in the butt it was to work with him. So I almost wondered like if it just got on everybody's nerves to the point where like this was Kendall Roy's story, this show was Kendall Roy's story. Maybe they just got tired of doing it and gave up and just said like, let's wrap it up. We've done enough. We know what the end game is. Let's just get to it. We can't deal with this guy anymore. I don't know if that's actually the case. That was just a conspiracy theory that I came up with. It popped in my head. Once again, spoilers for Succession, all the shows we're talking about. Popped in my head first when Logan Roy died at what seemed like a pretty early point in the season. It almost felt like, did Brian Cox just be like, kill me off, I can't deal with this guy anymore type thing. Brian Cox has since come out and said like that he felt like they killed him off too early, like he could have done more. I kind of feel the same way too. That's kind of a weird thing. It's like I feel like Succession like had a lot of story left to tell and kind of rushed to the ending. Like I don't know if like, and that's why one of the reasons, like I said, like maybe like people just got tired of doing it, specifically with this actor, because like he's been the one guy that's come out and they've been like, we don't really want to do this anymore. And there was two key points, even in this season, there was two things that seemed rushed. There was two things that seemed like overlooked or just like dropped to me. And number one was in the election episode, the whole plot was like, if we call the election for X candidate and it's wrong, we'll get in trouble, blah, 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 blah. And there was a rush. No, we got to call it. We got to call it. We got to call it. And it felt like that was going to lead to them calling it and being wrong, or them calling it and there was going to be some kind of repercussion from it. But as soon as that episode ended, it never really came back up again. Like the Mencken, who they declared the winner of the election, was like in the next episode for the funeral, but like it almost got pushed to the background. Like, did he win? Did the other guy win? Like there was some stuff in the last episode where it was like there was stuff on TV where I was trying to sink in on it, like, is this an Easter egg revealing it? Because like there was one where it was like it was clearly the other candidate was talking on TV, but I thought that was going to be ultimately what would lead to the family like losing control of the company, was that they pushed to select that one guy as the president, and then he wasn't going to be the president. But then that just ended up being like nothing. It just went away. And the other thing that just never really came back the way I thought it was going to be was that Kendall killed a kid. Like the waiter that died in the car crash in like season 2 or season 1, whichever that was, that always was like hanging out there, like this is going to be what takes him down. This is going to be what takes him down. At some point in time, somebody powerful is going to find out about this, or one of the siblings that knows about it's going to use it to take him down. And just like it never came back up until like Shiv just threw it away in like a half-hearted like line when she was like saying she was going to vote against him. She's like, you killed somebody. It's like, this was like one of the biggest plot points of the first like 1 to 2 seasons of the show, and then like just never came back up until like a throwaway line like after he'd already basically lost. It was weird. It was weird. I just like I don't know. There's weird stuff about it. I liked the finale. I thought it was good. I thought like it checked all the boxes in terms of like giving us the answers we probably wanted in the show. I just felt like the last season was just rushed. Like it felt like this show could have gone like 2 to 3 more seasons, but for some reason they just were like, "Now we're gonna end it here." I had to rush through it, and it was. I think the story of it was Kendall Roy's story. So once you get to the point where he's completely out of the company, completely missed his chance to succeed his father as the head of the company, that's the end of that story. So it makes sense why it ended where it ended in terms of that, but it felt so rushed. Like there was so much more that could have been done. I mean, like, also like the first 2 episodes were all about like them trying to buy this competing company, the Pierce deal, and that just disappeared. It was weird. The season was weird. The finale was fine. It wasn't bad. Like, but this is what I'm saying. Like the acting is so superb on Succession that I think it almost covers up that like maybe the story of the show had some flaws, had some issues. Like I don't know. I'm not some super, you know, critic. I don't, know art and like the cinematography and blah 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 blah. I just like know. Did I watch this? Was I entertained by it? For the most part, with Succession, I'd say yes. But did I have some stuff that I was like, this is weird? Why did they do this? Yes. That leads us into Barry, the other HBO show that just wrapped up. And I think this is a great example of like I just said. My main thing when I watch a show, when I watch a movie, when I watch any kind of entertainment, like I want to be entertained. That might be just like dumb. I don't understand art. I don't understand like character development. Blah 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 blah. If I watch something, at the end of it, I want to be like, that was really enjoyable. I'm glad I watched that. And it's not saying that like things can't be sad. There can't be like tragedy. There can't be like terrible things. But like the ultimate goal of like entertainment to me is to be entertained. I mean, it's in the word right there. That seems stupid to say. And for the most part, the last season of Barry just wasn't entertaining to me. It just was like a dredge. It was like a sludge. It was like hard to get through. Like, and there's probably like an argument to be made that like, if this was the real world, if everything that happened in Barry happened in the real world, that's what it would be like. It would be just like hard, just like everybody would suck. Like life would suck. It would be boring. It would be terrible. But like, one of the reasons we watch TV, one of the reasons we watch movies is to escape the real world. We want to be entertained. Like, but there was other stuff that just made no sense to me throughout the season. And I'm sure, like, I've listened to like a lot of interviews with Bill Hader, and he talks about like his vision for the show, and I think that was, where it went. But there's stuff like, I don't know why NoHo Hank, after being just like this, like deeply in love with like Cristobal, just like decided to just like let him be killed. I don't know why Sally, after being like so scarred and so brutally traumatized by what happened with Barry, just like at the drop of a hat was like, yeah, let's move away and just change our whole lives and drop everything. Those two things didn't make much sense to me. And just overall, like the last 2 to 3 episodes of the season were just like boring. They were just like boring. Like, it's one thing if like you're getting into the depths of like a tragic story, like where everything's falling apart, but you can still be entertaining. Like Ozymandias, the Breaking Bad episode where everything completely falls apart for Walter White. Spoilers for Breaking Bad now. I'm sorry, we're jumping into something else with spoilers. That was an entertaining, engaging episode of TV where just everything that could go wrong went wrong. All the characters lost everything. Everything was horrible, but it was entertaining. Barry kind of went the same way as Breaking Bad, but in a more boring way. So everything was just boring. There was like 2 episodes towards the end of Barry that were just like boring. Like the last 2 episodes, like the whole episode, like the first episode where like they established like what Barry and Sally's life was like after they ran away from Los Angeles was just boring. Just boring, boring, boring. And the finale was just like, I don't know, the final season, just like the characters, the things that we're doing didn't make sense. Jim Moss, Janice's dad, he's probably the character who like completely lost the plot the most, because he was like this like psychological mastermind who knew everything, was able to just like sit people down, pick their brains out, and then off like a few paper clippings, a few weird things he saw, he just completely changed all his mindset and was like, nope, it wasn't Barry, it was Gene Cousineau who masterminded this whole thing, who he, he'd set with Gene Cousineau more than anybody. He should have known Gene Cousineau was just like an idiot who wanted fame. But he somehow like switched his whole brain into being like Gene Cousineau is the mastermind of the whole thing and blah 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 blah. I didn't like the last season of Barry at all. I didn't like the finale at all. I didn't like anything about it. I love the show. Like early in the season, you can go back. I tweeted Barry greater than Succession because I think the first few episodes of the season were on track with what had happened the first few seasons of Barry. Like the whole time Barry was in prison, it was really interesting. It was really fun. And then like as soon as Barry got out of prison, it went off the rails. Like nobody started. Like all the characters like lost their minds. Nobody was doing things the way they had done stuff. Just made no sense. Terrible ending of the show. And it was one where I was like, this was Bill Hader's, Bill Hader, I listened to a lot of interviews with Bill Hader. He talks very passionately about the show. Like, he's like the main creative force behind it, it seems like. And this was his vision all along. This is the way he saw the characters going. So it's like, I get, that's your thing. You're the creator. You have your right to do that. But at the same point in time, like, I often wonder with like writers, directors, filmmakers, are you making this to entertain people, or are you just like making this to fulfill yourself? Like, and I don't know. I have a hard time seeing anybody who would have been entertained or fulfilled by the final season of Barry, but it was, what Bill Hader wanted to do with it, and I thought it was pretty much terrible for the most part after Barry got out of prison. The first half of the season, when Barry was still in prison, was good, but like, NoHo Hank, just like they ruined NoHo Hank. Fuchs was kind of cool. Fuchs was the only character in the second half of the season that was like borderline interesting the way they, did stuff with him. But Barry got really weird, made no sense. Sally didn't do anything she wanted to do, and like obviously, like I said, like Jim Moss, they ruined him. He was like this like great like borderline like incredible character, like his ability to like read people, understand people, and everything. And it was like, then he just randomly was like, no, this idiot that I've known for years was the mastermind all along. That made no sense. So Succession, Barry, finally, Ted Lasso. I have a certain affinity for Ted Lasso as a soccer person. I thought season 1 was incredible. I thought season 2 was pretty good. Season 3 was very all over the place. It felt like they almost didn't know if they were going to end it this season, so they were like starting some new plot threads, and then halfway through the season decided they were going to end it and decided to wrap everything up because like it's very weird. I do think they probably are planning some spin-offs because there was some stuff like they planted seeds in the last episode for continuations, like obviously like the Jamie and Roy Kent both going after Keeley at the end. It's like, wait, we're not going to see how this resolves, who she's going to end up with. We're not going to see the Ross and Rachel ending. I think it's smart to. I don't think Apple TV wants it to end. Like, it's been their biggest hit, for all accounts and purposes. So, but it definitely made sense to end the Ted Lasso story because that was some of a weird story to begin with. Like, just like this weird football coach comes over here and somehow is almost going to win the Premier League. Like that, you can only stretch the believability of that so far. But I could see him continuing as like the Roy Kent story, like shifting it away from Ted Lasso. So that would make sense. But like, it's just weird. Like they started like the Keeley story with like Jack, and that just went away. It was so abrupt when Nate went from being like the biggest villain of the show, coaching West Ham, betraying Ted, to just being like, no, I quit West Ham. Like they barely mentioned it like in the start of an episode. It was the weirdest thing in the world. Like Nate's whole story this season sucked. Like it made so much sense for him to like. I was so pumped at the end of season 2, and I was like, Nate's gonna be the new Jose Mourinho. It's gonna be great. He's gonna be a villain. And then Nate was just like, never fully got into it. And like halfway through the season, they just like started an episode going, oh, by the way, Nate quit West Ham. It's like, what? That didn't make much sense. But in terms of like the Ted Lasso part of the finale, I thought everything was great. It made perfect sense. Like, he realized he needed to go home. He needed to go back to his son. He needed to wrap up everything he'd done in England. It was a fun, enjoyable finale, whereas like the rest of this previous season was like weird. And the weird thing about it was like all the episodes this last season were like an hour plus long. So it was like they were adding new stuff when they knew they were. I don't know. This last season, Ted Lasso was weird. The finale was good. I enjoyed the finale, but the last season was weird. Um, and I've seen some theories online. This makes a lot of sense. The creator of the show, Bill Lawrence, from Scrubs, Spin City, Cougar Town, basically made like 100 great shows. He had Shrinking, another Apple TV show that he did with Harrison Ford, with Jason Segel, which is great. Go watch Shrinking if you haven't watched Shrinking yet. There was a theory that maybe he wasn't as involved in Ted Lasso this season because he was working on Shrinking, which makes a lot of sense. Why it would have kind of come unglued a little bit, why it would have made much sense. Maybe he rolled back in to help. I don't know what I just did. Why he might have rolled back in and like helped get the finale over the line. Why the finale was good when the rest of the season was kind of wonky. I don't know. I like Ted Lasso. So my rankings of the finales for this week would go Succession first, but even that was like a little weird. Ted Lasso second. Actually, I'll switch it because Ted Lasso was a more satisfying finale. Succession second. Barry way down low. Barry just last season Barry sucked. I'm just gonna pull the wool off there and say it sucked. But with Succession though, like I was listening to a podcast earlier today and they were talking like, you know, if that was the end, you know, HBO, you know, obviously we're seeing what they're doing with Game of Thrones. They're gonna want to tap back into their IPs, their successful properties. And I thought, like, in my mind, I was like, it'd be really interesting, like, you know, 10 years from now to revive Succession where, maybe longer, maybe more than 10 years from now, where we see, you know, because is Tom in charge that interesting? No, but, you know, down the line, the next phase of Succession, is Tom still there? Is him and Shiv's child lobbying for future power? That could be interesting. You know, just skip ahead, figure out like what, you know, did Kendall kill himself? Is Roman just like in some random bar in Europe, like just drinking himself to death still? That could be interesting. But the more interesting one, the podcast I was listening to earlier today brought up that I hadn't even thought about was like a Succession prequel series would be very interesting. And I think they almost like maybe had thought about this when making the show because like Logan Roy's brother Ewan's eulogy for Logan was maybe the most we've seen revealed about Logan's backstory, like how he came to America, how it, because it's always kind of like how this guy became like this global media icon has always kind of just been like pushed to the side. It's just like he's there, you understand it, you know it. There could be a very interesting story to tell of like how he actually came to America and became like the Walt Disney, the Donald Trump, the frickin' Rupert Murdoch or whatever like version of the character he's supposed to be in this show could be like, you know, because we don't know that much about it. It's like one of the problems I always have with prequels is you kind of know the end game and you kind of know how you got there, but with like Logan Roy, we really don't know that much about like how he got to the point he was at in Succession. So like a prequel of like 20, 25-year-old Logan Roy, how he creates the conglomerate company that sets the stage for Succession could be very interesting. So I could definitely see Succession prequel being a very interesting thing to see. I actually kind of want to see that more than like a continuation of the series or any other spinoff. So if you're watching HBO, or excuse me, if you're watching Max, do it. All right, I don't think I got anything else today. Did have one comment in the chat. Daniel Timbers said, I actually watch your video, especially when you go to games. Yeah, that seems to be my most popular videos is the game day videos, you know. So happy to have anybody who watches any of the videos anytime. The match day videos are the most fun. Like the last week, if you haven't watched the Columbus match video yet, go back and watch that one. That was awesome. I got all 3 goals. The reaction to the third Henny Mokhtar goal in Geodis Park was electric. Just like go back and watch that video just for the pop, just for the crowd at Geodis like losing their minds on the Henny Mokhtar goal at the end of the game against Columbus last week. So, but otherwise, thanks for watching any of the videos that you watch. Appreciate you all. Wrapping this up, we got to go out to dinner tonight. It's Jesta's birthday. Shout out Jesta. Happy birthday to Jesta. Gonna go to Bob's Steakhouse, eat some delicious steak, and then late night Taco Bell maybe? I don't know. Either way, I'll see you at Taco Bell.